Welcome to 5 in 5 from the One Stop Co-op Shop, where I review 5 key elements of a game in about 5 minutes. I'm Michael Kelly, and today I'm looking at The Hunted from GMT Games. Disclaimer that I was sent a review copy of this game. I've been hearing for years that games like B-17 and The Hunters provide some of the best tension and emergent storytelling of any game out there. So how did my first foray into this genre of game go? Let's find out and get to the list. For my number 5, I'm going to look at the limited upgrading in the game for both your sub and your crew, and it ended up a bit of a mix for me. On the positive side, I do like the variety of upgrades available here. You can upgrade, all the different members of your crew can upgrade, you can get different types of torpedoes, you can try out better and newer subs, new technologies, lots of cool stuff to play around with and to make your sub more survivable and more powerful. But on the negative side, like most things in the game, whether or not you get these upgrades tends to be very luck-based, and the game is pretty short, so you don't really have that much of a chance in my experience to actually get as many of the cool tools as you might like. Now, you can fix that by combining it with the previous game in the series, The Hunters, and doing one really long campaign, but just within The Hunted, the later box, there's not as much upgrade potential as I would have liked to have seen. My number 4 is also a mix, and it's something I mentioned in my intro, and that's the potential for tension and emergent story in the game. On the positive side, the threat of death is very real almost constantly in the game, which does sometimes amp up the tension, although you can have very long periods of dullness as well. But on the negative side, the emergent story wasn't often there for me, because you tend to see a lot of the same kind of stuff over and over again, basic ship battles and plane attacks, and some of the kind of more interesting events and unusual things didn't crop up enough for me to feel like I was having a unique experience each time. And I'm going down to a full-on con for my number 3, which is all of the die roll modifiers and tables you have to constantly shuffle through and look up while you play the game. Now, it's usually not going to be exciting and fun to look through a lot of tables and kind of flip all these cardboard pieces over, but I've gotten through it with things like the coin series from GMT. But the thing that struck me with this game series is that there are so many tables and so many die roll modifiers, and I will say that a lot of them seem to be serving the purpose of simulation and realism. They want to account for all of these different factors, even if they only give a little modifier either way. But for me, someone that isn't as interested in simulation, I just found it kind of tedious to have to dig through them, and do I really need 15 different modifiers to find out what actually affects my shot of this torpedo? So I didn't find it fun. Someone who loves the simulation aspect might adore it, but finally I get to a pro for the game, the biggest one I have, and that's the excitement of ship battles. It's where you make your most impactful choices, where you have the most controllable danger, because you get to pick how close you want to get to the ships, how many torpedoes you want to fire, how much you want to risk revealing yourself, and if the escorts detect you, and they often will, you get into the most tense and exciting part of the game, which is where they keep on depth charging you and causing more and more damage to your sub, while you desperately try to escape their net. It's exciting, it's fun, I love when you have a ton of damage and you have to just hope that you can limp back home. Ship attacks and their aftermath have been without a doubt the high point of the game experience for me. But if we have a high point, we need to have a low point too, and here it is, my number 1, a full-on con, and that's the fact that there just aren't very many choices in this game. Besides what I just said, the ship combat, where you make choices about torpedoes and your approach, you have almost zero control of anything that happens to you. And don't get me wrong, that can sometimes be fun, roll on a chart and see what kind of fun things occur, but here I just found it kind of dull, frustrating, and quite honestly, boring, because I didn't have enough impact on what happened to me in the game for it to feel important, for it to feel like it mattered, whether I almost made it all the way through the war, or whether I died on my first die roll. It just felt random and pretty much a letdown. So overall, as you can probably already tell, The Hunted was a pretty big miss for me. I did enjoy the combat, and I think a lot of people are going to like that tension, but for me, all the die roll modifiers, all the tables, all the randomness, the feeling I didn't control my fate, and the often kind of dullness of what was happening except for those ship battles really brought it down for me. But I do want to be clear that I've talked to so many people on Facebook and Slack and Discord that love this game series and love these types of games overall, so I think my reaction here is in some ways a personal one, and you might totally adore the game. So please check out my playthrough that just popped up and see if it looks more fun to you than it was to me. Good gaming, and I'll see you at the next stop.